At the security gate at LaGuardia, the search wand had smacked delicate things of Tom's person that it really had no business engaging, socially or otherwise. Meanwhile, another security person managed to dump every single thing from Tom's bag onto the conveyor belt. He watched helplessly as very personal possessions rolled by in front of suddenly interested strangers. To put a fine finish on this very special moment, he was then informed that a major warning flag had been raised regarding his ID, his hair color, his clothing choice, or the size of his nose. They were never really clear on that, actually. Thus, instead of flying to Dallas, he'd be enjoying the company of a host of FBI, DEA, CIA, and NYPD personnel for an unspecified period of time. The phrase 5 to 10 was even bandied about. Well, that, coupled with his exploited physical parts, was his absolute limit. So, the lava poured forth. Langdon was 6'2" and carried about 220 pounds of fairly hard muscle, and real honest-to-God steam was coming out his ears. His eruption involved language he ordinarily wouldn't use within 4 miles of any church, as he launched himself at the security team, grabbed their infamous search wand, and snapped it right in half. He wasn't proud of his violent act that day, although the rousing cheers from some of the other passengers who had heard and seen what had happened to him did manage to lift his spirits a bit. Thankfully, the magistrate Tom appeared before had recently endured airport security of an extremely overzealous nature, and when he gave his testimony, she and Tom shared a knowing look. Also, the red flag raised at the security gate had been, shockingly, a mistake. Thus, Tom only received a stern warning, with instructions to enroll in anger management classes, which he planned to do as soon as his uncontrollable urge to maim the fellow with the search wand subsided. However, the other consequence of the blow-up was that he'd been banned from placing his miserable person on any air carrier that flew within the continental United States for the next 2 years. He hadn't thought they could do that. But then he was shown the appropriate statutory power in the microscopic print of the airline's legal manifesto under the equally tiny section titled Lost Luggage Liability Limit, $5. And that's when he had his epiphany. Being unable to fly, his usual and necessary way of traveling, was an omen. It had to be a sign of something divine, something important. Thus, he was going to take the train to L.A. He was going to write a story about it, traveling by rail from sea to shining sea during the Christmas season. He had a grand motivation beyond spending the holiday with Lelia. Tom Langdon was one of the Elmira, New York Langdons. To those with a keen knowledge of literary history, the Elmira Langdons brought to mind Olivia Langdon. Olivia, besides having been a lovely, resilient, if ultimately tragic person in her own right, gained lasting fame by marrying the loquacious orator, irascible personality, and prolific scribe known to his friends as Samuel Clemens, but otherwise known to the world and to history as Mark Twain. Tom had known of this familial connection since he was old enough to block letter his name. It had always inspired him to earn his living with words. For Twain had also been a journalist, starting at the Territorial Enterprise in Virginia City, Nevada, before going on to fame, fortune, bankruptcy, and then fame and fortune again. Tom, for his part, had been imprisoned twice by terrorist groups and very nearly killed 6 times, covering a variety of wars, skirmishes, coups, and revolutions that civilized societies used to settle their differences. He'd seen hope replaced with terror, terror replaced with anger, anger replaced with, well, nothing, for the anger always seemed to stick around and make trouble for everybody. Though he'd won major awards, he believed he wasn't a writer with the ability to create memorable prose that would stand tall and strong over the eons. Not like Mark Twain. Yet to have even a marginal connection to the creator of Huckleberry Finn, Life on the Mississippi, and the man who corrupted Hadleyburg, a man whose